Okay, so hello again, everyone. I'm Erin Thomas. I'm a career and executive coach, really on a mission to help people land jobs they love, make more money, and advance in their careers. So I work with hundreds of people around the globe every year to set career goals, get clear on their unique talents, build professional brands, and develop strategic action plans so that they can reach their goals. I also support leaders and executives with leadership coaching, and I consult with companies on leadership and professional development. So I'm super glad you're here with me this morning. I hope this will be informative and also give you some really practical tips on what you can do in this job market to find your next thing. Okay, so what is the Great Resignation? You've all heard about it. You've all read about it in the news. You've seen the headlines. You've heard sound bites. How masses are quitting their jobs and leaving huge gaps in the workforce. All the while, there are industries like service, retail, hospitality, education, and medical, specifically nursing, that continue to have unfilled vacancies. And employers are sort of knocking down people's doors with vacant positions. So what really is the Great Resignation? So early last month, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics announced that 4.3 Americans quit their jobs in the month of August 2021. 4.3 million Americans. Okay, so just to give some context, that's 2.9% of the entire US workforce. This is sort of mind-blowing. It's a record-breaking month. Never before in history have we seen this number. And of course, that's piggybacking on previous record-breaking months. So to give you a little bit more context, from December 2000 to the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, the US's resignation rate never surpassed 2.4% of the total workforce per month. So previously, since 2000, so I said, actually earlier, I said never in history. Since year 2000, we had never seen the rates surpass 2.4%. And just in August, we saw a 2.9%. For more context, high worker resignation rates have always been tracked to high worker confidence in the ability to get higher paying jobs, which typically is associated with high economic stability and abundance of people working, and of course, low unemployment rates. And during periods of high unemployment, resignation rates have tended to decrease as higher rates decrease. So in March and April of 2020, when the pandemic was really hitting hard, resignation rates did indeed follow this pattern, as expected. However, as the pandemic has continued, workers have sort of paradoxically quit their jobs in large numbers, despite the labor shortages and the very high unemployment rates. So this is just a lot of people quitting their jobs. This is a lot of people on, entering the job market. And it's actually spanning all industries. For a while there, we were really seeing the big numbers in retail, hospitality, food service, which we are still seeing very high numbers, which I'll tell you in a minute some of the numbers, but we really are seeing now that this is impacting all sectors. So I'm going to read some numbers here. Let me get my notes. So according to Microsoft's 2021 Work Trend Index, more than 40% of the global workforce are considering quitting their job in 2021. 40% of the global workforce considering quitting their job in 2021. According to a Price Waterhouse Coopers survey conducted in August of 2021, 65% of employees said they're looking for a new job, excuse me, and 88% of executives said their company is experiencing higher turnover than normal. In October of 2021, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that food service workers' quit rate rose to 6.8%, which is well above the industry average of 4.1%. over the last 20 years, and still higher than the industry's quit peaks of 5% in 2006 and 2019. The retail industry had the second highest quit rates at 4.7%. A Deloitte study published in Fortune magazine in October of 21 found that among Fortune 1000 companies, 73% of CEOs anticipate the work shortage will disrupt their business over the next 12 months. 57% believe attracting talent is among their company's biggest challenge and is the biggest thing keeping them up at night. And 35% have already expanded benefits to bolster employee retention. So this has become an unprecedented event in the labor market, unlike anything we've ever seen. And I'm not trying to be an economist nor a workforce analyst. I'm a career and executive coach, and I'm a former recruiter and HR leader. So my interest in the matter is really understanding what's going on in the market so that I can help people land jobs and be successful in those jobs. So what are some of the causes of the Great Resignation? And this is really interesting. And some of these reasons are really obvious, and some of these are a little bit less obvious. And what economists and workforce analysts agree on is that there seems to be the perfect storm of events playing out, all of which have a role in causing this mass exodus from jobs. But first, before I talk about some of these reasons, I'd love to see, just by like a show of hands, you can click the thumbs up or the hand raise button on your Zoom. Who here has quit their jobs in 2021 or in 2020 during the pandemic? Who here has quit their jobs? Okay, I see a couple thumbs up. Yeah, okay, not as many as I expected. Oh, there's another one. Okay, great. So just before COVID, yeah, and what, for those of you who did quit your job during COVID, what were some of sort of the high level reasons you quit your job? Yeah, Courtney, trying to get there. Yeah, burnout, of course. Role was cut, yeah, of course. So an involuntary sort of quit. Didn't like my supervisor. Oh yeah, people, you know what they say, people quit their jobs not because of the job, but because of their boss. Not all the time, of course. Yeah, being in person. I didn't feel safe teaching in person. Yep. Yeah. So some real safety concerns. So I quit my job during the pandemic also. Of course, I didn't quit my job as a career and executive coach, but I did quit my job as the vice president of people and culture at an organization in Seattle, Washington, where I was for about 6 years. And for me, the reason was I never wanted to be in an office again. I realized that working remote for me gave me the amount of flexibility that I really needed to feel good in my job and in my life. So that was sort of my reason. Thanks everyone for sharing. That's helpful. So people burnt out, right? People feeling like I can't deal with this anymore. There's so much happening outside work that I can't be here anymore. People wanting raises, right? Or better working conditions. They realized I need to be making more money. I need to be treated better. People like me wanting to stay remote and have more flexibility in their work life. And some companies and organizations just not being willing to accommodate that. Of course, family pressures from COVID, such as closing schools and inconsistent or lack of childcare. Some people literally could not work anymore because they had to take care of their children. Of course, businesses closing and reopening, people losing jobs because jobs were cut or layoffs, people moving outside of cities, people deciding I don't want to be in the city anymore, I want to be in the suburbs or in a more rural area, and therefore needing to quit their jobs, especially ones that required them be in person. Of course, like somebody shared, fear of being in a physical office or a physical space with others given COVID-19. Um, so all of these very practical reasons, they just make a ton of sense. There also seems to be something a little bit more existential at play, specific to the way the pandemic changed our lives and the world. And of course, this makes sense, right? It gave us perspective. It gave some of us perspective about what is most important. Who am I? What do I want to be doing? So Anthony Klotz, he is a Texas A&M psychologist. He was actually the one who predicted the Great Resignation when the pandemic began. He also coined the term the Great Resignation. So he credits what he calls pandemic epiphanies with motivating workers to quit their jobs, really for greener pastures, for better working conditions, more pay, more flexibility, to be treated better, et cetera. So, right, this makes sense. People realized life is short, and maybe there's something out there that I could be doing that feels better, that feels more contributory to the world in the way that I want. But also, there was what's called there was this sort of phenomenon that happens, which is called experience effects, and this is what behavioral economist Ulrike Malmendier talks about and studies. And she is, again, a behavioral economist. She's always on Planet Money, which if you ever listen to that show on NPR, it's a really good one. But so she talks about this sort of experience effects, which essentially means that experiences shape people's choices and behaviors. Living through certain experiences shape the way people behave. So this isn't a surprise, right? I mean, when you think about it, of course, significant experience shapes the way people behave and shapes their personalities and their choices. But on a macroeconomic level, this is really interesting, right? And so she's done a lot of studies with others on big events such as the Great Depression. So she wrote a paper called Depression Babies: Do Macroeconomics Experiences Affect Risk-Taking, People's Risk-Taking? So they basically, in this paper, she wanted to know whether those who grew up in the aftermath of the stock market crash of 1929 were less likely to invest in the stock market. And, not surprising, they found the answer was a resounding yes. The Great Depression, they found, created an entire generation that was fairly skittish about investing in stocks. Conversely, those who came out of the age of the roaring 50s and the 60s, in contrast, were much more sort of gung-ho about investing in the stock market. These types of massive experiences, they literally rewire our brains. Neuroscience is teaching us that our brains are so malleable, in fact, and we can rewire them intentionally or unintentionally through experience. And we can, of course, see this in other examples, such as childhood traumas, which profoundly affects people's outcomes as adults, and so many other types of examples. So circling it back to the Great Resignation, Malmendier is predicting that basically the experience we've all been enduring of teleworking, of working remotely for so long, of Zoom meetings, right? Relating to each other over Zoom instead of in person, the experience of homeschooling our children, and just all the other social and economic changes will continue to shape our choices and choices long after COVID-19 recedes. So it's just sort of, I find that really fascinating on kind of this macro level of, what's going to happen to the labor market. And in some ways, I see what we're going through as kind of a culture reckoning, an employee culture reckoning, where, at least American employees are saying, this isn't working for me anymore. I want something different. And there's enough people that are sort of saying that and showing that with their behavior by quitting their jobs, that it'll just be interesting where that goes. So as you can see, there's a whole array of reasons people are quitting their jobs, which all of which is leading to this mass Great Resignation. Okay, but I know you didn't come here just to like learn about this. I know you came here because many of you are job seekers and or career changers, and you know, everybody, and myself included, is saying this is a great time to rethink your career and find a new job. And it is. I will say that there are so many jobs on the market. I hope all of you are on LinkedIn. I'm assuming you are, because that's where most of the registrants came from for this webinar. But every time I log on to LinkedIn, I see at least a dozen jobs, and these aren't just any jobs. These are interesting jobs. These are you know, good jobs from what I can tell. So there really are a lot of jobs on the market. Now, there's also a huge amount of competition. So I know for some of my clients, and I've heard from other job seekers alike, that while there is this influx of jobs out there, they're not getting hired, you know, and that is really due to the competition is fierce right now. There are so many people on the job market, like I've described, all who are looking for not just any job, but a job that pays really well, a job that gives them a lot of flexibility, the flexibility that they are now accustomed to and that they now desire, and a job that that is going to treat them well, that has a good, positive organizational culture, right? That invests in their talent, that grows their talent. So because competition is fierce, there are a number of things that you as a job seeker have to do. It is really a non-negotiable anymore. You have to do these things. There are 6 things. So I'm going to try to be really tactical about these things. Number 1, be very, very clear, or get very, very clear on what you are looking for. So, you know, it is so often that we decide, I'm not happy in my current job, I want something new, and we just start looking for jobs. And we look for lots of different types of jobs, and we're kind of all over the place, right? So so because so many people are applying to jobs, you have to be really, really clear with what you're looking for, and then communicate that, articulate that through all of your job search assets, which I will talk about in a minute. There are 3 ways to get super clear on what you're looking for. This doesn't actually have to be that complicated. We make it very complicated because it's emotional, it's subjective, it's our lives, it's our happiness, right? But one way to kind of cut through that complexity is make it simple. And here are three questions to ask yourself to get clear on what you're looking for. Number 1, what is most important to you? This is really speaking to your values. What is most important to you? And it's different for all of us. So try to get honest with yourself and really answer that question. Number 2, what do you do best? What do you do best? What is your secret? What are your what are your super talents? What are your core strengths? What can you, with real confidence, say, yes, I do this really, really well? Maybe it's building relationships and nurturing relationships. Maybe it's getting work done. Maybe it's influencing people. Maybe it's visioning. But what do you do best? And number 3, what motivates you? So what motivates you is super important, right? And there are 2 types of motivations, and a lot of my clients have heard me say this over and over again. There are intrinsic motivations and there are extrinsic motivations. Intrinsic motivations are the motivations that come from within us. So these are the ones that have no ceiling. These are the motivations that will keep giving us positive emotions. These are the motivations that will keep us motivated, that will keep driving us, keep fueling us in our work. extrinsic motivations are the ways that we are motivated that come outside of us, outside of ourselves. So of course, these are really important too, like salary, like benefits, like, location of job. So those are all really important. And just remember, those will always have a ceiling. Those will always have a ceiling of how much positive emotion they continue to give you. They cap out. So you want those to be present in your job, but just remember that they will cap out. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that was number one. Get clear on what you're looking for. And you can do this. You don't need a coach to do this with you. I mean, a coach will help you do this. And if you're getting stuck in it, then certainly start seeking, some support from a coach or from a friend that's in HR, maybe, or has some coaching, but it is something that you can do on your own as well. Number two, build a brand and amplify it. Build a brand and amplify it. So I just had the pleasure of doing an interview yesterday for a podcast around brand building. And it's funny that I'm talking about brand because I am by no means a communications expert, never have been. But what I have seen is that it's very commonsensical for people who are trying to put their best foot forward and really trying to set themselves apart to be intentional about their professional brand. So some of you may be thinking, oh gosh, wait, what? I have to have a brand? That's like the last thing I want to do, but it's not that hard. It's really not. And the reality is we all have a brand already, whether you like it or not, or whether you're intentional about it or not, because a brand is merely the way that others perceive you, right? The way that others perceive what is important to you, what you do, what you're good at, etc. And so the key here is craft sort of a message, craft a brand so that you're telling the story that you want, so that you're intentional about it, and you're telling the story that about, truly like what you're looking for, what you do best, what is most important to you. So this is ever more important. And a brand only has to be 4 elements. There are 4 elements to a good basic brand. The first one is, who are you? And I know that that's a very loaded question. Who are you? But remember to simplify. This is just a high level overview of, sort of your identity as a professional. So for me, it might be, I am an energetic leader on a mission to helping people thrive in the workforce. That was kind of my mission when I was in HR. So sort of, high level, who are you? Second part of brand, what have you done? This is like 2 to 3 sentences. This is not your resume. This is not an exhaustive list of every single job you've had. You're going to cherry pick. You're going to think about what are the things that I'm most proud of. What are the projects, the initiatives, the challenges that I have overcome? What are the deliverables that I've completed? These are you cherry picking the most rewarding and the most the things that you are most proud of that you've done. So 2 to 3 sentences. The third part, what are you best at? You already know, right? Because you've already done sort of some of this clarifying of what's important to you, what you do best, and what motivates you. So now pull the sort of what you do best forward. This can be like 4 to 5 bullet points in your sort of brand narrative. And it really showcases, this is what I do best, and here's the value add. Here's what I can do for you, potential employer, if you hire me. So an example of a strength for me is, if anybody on the call that knows me well knows that I'm an activator. I like to get things done. I move fairly quickly. Now, there's real strength to that, and there can be real challenge to that too. It's my biggest strength and my biggest weakness, as many of our strengths are also our biggest weaknesses. But I'm just focused on the strength of that. So for me, I might say, I know how to get things done. I take ideas and I put them into action quickly and nimbly, or something like that, right? So it's just kind of this like one sentence about my strength and why it matters. And then the fourth part of the brand is pulling forward your motivations and your values. So this is like what you're looking for. What are you looking for? How are you motivated? And what types of values are you looking for in an opportunity? So as an example, for me, I might say, I am highly motivated to be in fast-paced environments, to get things done. I'm very results focused, and I'm looking for an opportunity or an organization that values honesty, integrity, and social justice, or advancing social justice. These are three of my core values that I know without a doubt need to be present in whatever working environment I'm in. So when I lead with that in my brand, I am now telling the world, this is who I am, this is what I'm looking for. And so I'm weeding out all the potential employers actually that don't value social justice, that don't value honesty and integrity. And I'm sort of really aligning myself with those organizations that do. So that's your brand, just four parts. And it's really important that you have this and that you then incorporate it in your LinkedIn, in your resume, and in your cover letter, and of course, in all of the networking that you need to be doing. Once you have this brand, you can also come up with branding words, right? So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you'll see some of my branding words are in my headline of my LinkedIn. They're also words that I might use in my resume, in my header. And again, they're just reminding, they're telling the message, they're telling the story that I want people to hear, and that is really authentic to me. Okay, number 3, this is the very tactical and really important: polish your job search assets. So this is of course, your job search assets are of course your resume, your cover letter, your LinkedIn, and any other online portfolios you might have. So you have to be, I will say this, until the cows come home, you have to be customizing your resume to each and every job you apply to. And I don't mean just like looking at the job description and looking at your resume and kind of doing like a very high level analysis. No. I mean like get into the weeds of it. And again, any of my clients on the call can tell you, when they send me their resume, I tear it up when I have the job description to really show them the type of specificity they need to customize towards. Once you have your brand narrative, you can do this fairly easily. You're cutting and pasting from that brand narrative you've just created. You're also sort of cutting and pasting from the job description. So what I like to do is I have 2 screens. I have the job description on this screen, I have the resume on this screen, and I'm literally highlighting all of the key words and the key phrases and the key responsibilities that the job is requiring. And I'm translating those to my resume, to my cover letter, and then potentially to my LinkedIn. You're not going to change your LinkedIn dependent on every single job you apply to, of course. But if you are applying to lots of jobs in one type of industry, of course, you do need to then convey that on your LinkedIn, that this is a part of your brand, or this is what you're looking for. So customize. In the age of the Great Resignation, with so many people looking for jobs, you just have to, because this is the way this is really the only way your resume is going to get, reviewed and then passed on for the next round. Also, you've heard a lot about, I'm sure, applicant tracking systems. And if you are applying to big corporations, Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing, any of the big ones, you do need to make sure that your resume is ATS sort of approved or friendly. And it's not that hard at all. Honestly, just Google how to make my resume ATS friendly and it'll show you. It's not, it's very, very quite simple. So those are kind of the job search assets. It's all about customization, especially right now. And I say that, and then I also will say that doesn't mean you should be spending hours and hours and hours ad nauseum on each job description, or excuse me, on each resume. You should set a timer for yourself, no more than an hour, maybe a little bit longer than an hour if you're really rusty and you haven't worked on your resume for a while. But if you're kind of in the groove of things and you are applying to jobs, no more than an hour of editing your resume and cover letter and sending that in. So that could be your goal. Let me think of, do I want to say anything else about optimizing LinkedIn? I'll just say one more thing about how the brand then translates to your LinkedIn. Because you now have this brand, you have your branding words that can translate over to your headline. You have all this beautiful narrative that really speaks to who you are, what you do best, and what matters most. So you can use that in your about section. And then, of course, you're also using this brand narrative during your networking conversations. And that's the next sort of step. That's number 4 in the 6 steps that you need to take during this unprecedented labor market to really get a job and get one that you love, get one that pays you well, and that gives you flexibility, is networking. So this is the next one, networking. I know I feel so bad when I say this because I know so many people are like, I hate networking. It's the worst. It's so annoying. And I hear you. I totally hear you. I don't also love networking, and I'm a career coach. But I will say this, all networking is building and nurturing relationships. Networking is not sales. Networking is not being sort of sleazy or like just trying to get something from other people. It's really not. Good networking, productive and healthy networking is just building and nurturing relationships with colleagues, with friends, with family. Networking can happen outside of the sort of LinkedIn space. It can happen outside of the professional space. It can happen with your friends and family. It really can. So I invite you to sort of take on that new lens. If networking feels really challenging to you, take on that new lens that it's just about relationship building. So I'm sure you've all also heard about this hidden job market. And this like sounds so mysterious and underground. They say, sort of workforce analysts say that about 80% of jobs are on this hidden job market, meaning they are not public. They are not on job boards. They are not on LinkedIn. They are not anywhere where you can find them. 80% of jobs are not searchable, which is fairly bizarre, right? But really where those 80% of jobs are, they're in the minds of recruiters. They're in planning mode. They're job descriptions that are being developed by hiring managers and recruiters alike, but they haven't gone to market yet. They are jobs that teams are talking about and planning around that are still in planning mode. So they're basically just jobs that haven't made it to market yet. Now you can be really, really strategic and tap into this hidden job market through strategic networking. When you're having conversations with people in companies that you are attracted to or that you'd like to work with, when you're doing informational interviews, when you're talking to your friends and family, when you're sending emails to, colleagues, letting them know that you're looking, for X, Y, and Z, and would they send things your way if they know of anything. These are all moments where you can tap in potentially to this hidden job market. And it really does work. I mean, this is the thing. It really does work. When you tap into these jobs, recruiters and hiring managers now sort of see you as a potential candidate before the influx of other candidates come in, before the actual position goes to market. Now, in some cases, the position might not ever go to market because they decide to hire you. But this is just a reality, right or wrong. It's just a reality of the job market. Typically, in a normal labor market, jobs, good jobs, attractive jobs get about 250 applicants per job. So in this type of sort of voracious market, we can assume that it's much more, maybe even upwards of 500 or 400. I mean, I don't know, but we can assume that it's more. So again, this is just sort of trying to give you a competitive edge. Also, another sort of tactical tip is create a list of companies you want to work for, or organizations, or people. Maybe you're like, I don't know what organization or company I want to work for, but what are leaders? Who are leaders that you would like to work with, or colleagues? So start putting pen to paper and get a list of different companies or orgs or leaders that you would like to work with, and try to target about 20 to 25. Try to list 20 to 25 organizations, companies, or leaders that you would like to work with. Another tip is you can actually, I know Facebook is a little bit like on the outs, and yeah, I get why it is. I'm not a big Facebook user, but I will say that Facebook actually can be used for job searching. People don't think about Facebook for job searching, but it's actually quite, it's definitely a tool. So what you can do is go to your Facebook page, and at the top, input the company name. So say you want to work at Starbucks. Input Starbucks on the top of Facebook. Select then the People tab, and then turn on the Facebook button that says Friends of Friends. So this is very similar to actually LinkedIn in that it will allow you to see your second connections or your first connections, and who you're connected through to that company. Then you can privately, message that person and say, oh, I see this person who works at Starbucks. Can you make an introduction to me? So all of these ways are just ways to sort of tap into the hidden job market and to nurture and leverage your network, as well as build a new network. I know we're running out of time, and I'm talking really fast, and I do want to leave time for questions, but just two more quick things. They're definitely not quick, but I'll say them quickly. The fifth thing is, well, maybe I won't say it. Actually, I'm going to leave that one out. Let's just do the last one, which is you do need to prepare for a longer job search than expected. So because of the market we're in, we're just seeing that it really is taking a little bit longer to land those jobs. Because remember, you're being really picky, and I want you to be picky. But I do also want you to just plan for a little bit of a longer job search than expected. And remember that you're going to be most successful if you're spending the majority of your time networking and talking to people and articulating your professional brand. And then, of course, applying to jobs, of course, that you see, and customizing your resume. So I know I just said a lot and I talked really fast, and I'll just put it out there for any of you on the call that I am more than happy to jump on a free career sort of consult call with you, should you be feeling like you'd like some support, and we can sort of talk about your specific situation and what steps you might consider next. I also do one-on-one private coaching with people, and I also have a group coaching program that's starting in January of 2022, and it's called the Career Upgrade Bootcamp. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I know we're at time, so if folks have to get off the call, I completely understand, but I do want to just open it up and see if anyone has questions at all, and you can come off mute and ask your question, or you can type it in the chat box.
Hey, Erin, this is Catherine. Thank you so much for this list. It has been fabulous. This is really the shot in the arm I needed today. I have two questions. And one, when you say prepare for a bit longer, can you put some parameters on that? Like what do you think is average specifically for a niche role, a role that's kind of like finely defined? The second question is, I've taken a lot of notes, but I wonder that 6 steps, if you have that available as a handout, some of the 6 things you absolutely have to do, because I think I was busy writing on number 3 or 4 and I got lost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talked really fast. So 2 things just about the latter question. I am recording this, and so all registrants will get the recording. So you'll have that. But then also on my website, I have lots of materials. So I do encourage you to go to my website. I'm going to put it in the chat box. There's also a free, I don't know what it's called. It's a kind of a freebie resource that does list out much of what I just described. So you can go to my website. It's careerandleadershipcoaching.com. And you can get, you can sort of get this step-by-step approach that I talked about. Your first question, Catherine, I wish I could answer it with a lot of specificity. It's hard to say, and I'll tell you why. It's going to be quicker if you're doing everything that I just said. If you are super clear about what you want, if you feel like you do have sort of this brand narrative and you're able to articulate it, if you are customizing the heck out of your resumes and cover letters, and if you're using your network and sort of feeling good about, how you're talking to people. And then of course, if what I didn't talk about was just sort of, make sure that, interviewing, that you're practiced. Interviewing is a skill like so many other things, and it does require practice. The more we practice that muscle, the better we get. So, if you're doing all of those things like really, really well, I would say, I don't know, six-ish months, where you're interviewing a lot, presumably, and then you're getting offers. For some, it's taking longer. I have clients where it is taking longer. I've been in a job hunt before in my past. It was about 1.5 years. I was making a career change from environmental nonprofits to philanthropy. And it took me about 1.5 years to finally sort of get an offer that made sense for me, and I took it. I think I applied to more than 150 jobs. I don't think I applied, I know. I applied to more than 150 jobs. Now, I was a little bit scattered about what exactly I wanted. So I was applying to a lot of reach positions. I was applying to a lot of different types of things, but it did take me that long. So it's hard to say, but I can say with confidence, if you're doing all of these things and feeling good about them, then yeah, you should be making progress. And if you're not making progress, email me or call me or schedule a free consult with me, and we can kind of do some analysis to see, well, where in the process are you getting stuck? Are you not even finding jobs? Are you not getting interviews? Are you not getting offers, but you are getting interviews? And then we can kind of hone in on, okay, well, let's figure out, is it your interviewing? Is it your resume? Where in the process are you getting stuck? Any other questions from folks?
This is Katie Brown. I have a question. So if we're currently not employed, will it take longer to find a job? They've always said it's easier to find a job if you're employed than if you're not. So how is that reflected in this new climate?
Yeah, such a good question, Katie. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, so the sort of forbidden employment gap, right? This is something that we've always kind of heard we want to mitigate against. I will say it sort of depends on how long the employment gap has been. If it's a few months, it's really not noticeable. And I can say that as a former recruiter, you don't really think about it if it's a few months. If it's more than a year, you might wonder as a recruiter or as somebody that's reviewing, you just might wonder. It's really just, you're curious. You're like, well, what were they doing for that year? And so I do think it's important to acknowledge that in your job search assets. So it's important to just name the potential elephant on your resume. So, I don't know what your situation is, Katie, but, say you quit because you had to take care of children at home. You might put, on your resume, stepped out of the workforce to care for young children, and so excited to get back in and utilize, my long career history or my much of my experience in the past. So it's like you acknowledge it and kind of name it, and then move it into a real positive, which is, I am so excited to jump back in and work in these ways, theoretically the ways in which they are looking for somebody. And then of course, oftentimes recruiters or hiring managers or interviewers are asking you too to sort of describe the career gap on your resume. So again, it's all about how you're presenting it. And there's a real way to be just honest and candid, but then also, also sort of forward thinking. So, yes, there is, just the honest truth. Yes, the longer you have a career gap, the more question a recruiter or a hiring manager is going to have in their mind. They're going to be thinking, is this person rusty? Is this person going to quit? Is this person not going to be motivated to sort of get back into the corporate world or into a job? And so those are all things too that you can address sort of in your cover letter. Again, like, this time away from the workforce has really, not reminded me, but encouraged me that this is exactly what I'm looking for. Or even like if you have quit because your old job just wasn't working for you and you're sort of spending some time to get clear on what is next, talk about that. It is so impressive as for a recruiter or for a hiring manager to hear a candidate say with conviction, this is what I've learned about myself, and this is what I know I need in a workplace or in a job that's really going to motivate me. Because to them, they're thinking, oh, great, she or he or they are going to then stay with my company for a while. I hope that helped answer your question.
Very much. Thank you.
Good. And then Liz typed a question. If you're interested in a few different kinds of careers and your past experience is varied, how do you make your resume and LinkedIn not look scattered? Yeah, very good, Liz. Great question. This is all about your brand. So this is going back to your brand, and your brand theoretically doesn't actually change that much, because remember, your brand is made up of the most authentic identities of you, the things that are most important to you, what you do best, and how you're motivated in the world. Now, you do tweak that brand when you apply it to your resume, because it does need to align with the job that you're applying to. But you can really do this in a very effective way by first, using the brand and then taking the job description and translating it for them. So for example, I have a client currently He's in Nashville, and he's been in the service industry for the past 20 years. He really wants to move into social impact, specifically operations or IT. Okay, so he's been in the service industry in restaurants, and he wants to move into IT and operations for nonprofits or foundations or social impact. So what he's really focusing on is, in the past 20 years, all of the experiences and skills he's built around operations. So he's talking about, scheduling servers and bartenders. He's talking about, some of the work he did to help set up some of the infrastructure or some of the facilities management that he did over his 20-year career. So he's just really focusing on, what are they looking for, and what have I done that can translate? And then he is translating that very precisely. He's using the words they're using. He's saying, oh, you're looking for this? Well, look, here's what I've done. And that is a tactic in a cover letter. You really can take like the top, 3 to 4 to 5 things that the job is looking for, and you can literally say, you're looking for this? Well, here's my translation of that. Here's what I have done that is exactly what you're looking for, even though I've never had the title, or I've never, been in the context, in the specific company that you're looking towards. So you're always trying to focus on the through line and the brand message that is aligned with the job that you're looking for. And if you're applying to lots of different types of jobs, so like this client I was talking about, he's applying to operations, he's applying to IT, and he's applying to Salesforce administration jobs. He has 3 different types of resumes as a template. That's the template then he uses, and he still customizes a lot. And but he at least has a template that he can sort of work from. So that's what I would recommend, Liz. Well, we're coming up on the hour. I hope this was a value add to everyone. And please reach out if you have any questions, or if you need any additional support. I'm happy to support you. My mission is that people get in jobs that they love, that make them money, and that give them flexibility. So I'm rooting for you all to do just that. Thank you so much, and we'll talk next time. Bye, everybody.